Hey everybody, welcome back. Icon here. Thank you so much for checking out another video. Today we're going to talk about my day one predictions. So this weekend, obviously launch weekend, kickoff weekend in Minnesota. There are 3 days. So matches on Friday, matches on Saturday, matches on Sunday. So today it's too much to put into just one video. So I want to spread it out. And today I just want to talk about my day one predictions. So there are 3 matchups and we'll go one by one talking about each one of them, who I think will win and why I think that team will win. Now, I do want to say before we get into this that this is just my opinion. So if your opinion is different, please let me know down in the comments below. But with that, let's go ahead and let's hop right into the first matchup. So I don't know about you, but this is one of those matchups that we've been waiting for ever since all the drama happened 3 months ago with Crim6's intro vid, and then Scump had his reply at the end of Chicago's roster reveal video. So there has been just a little bit of drama there brewing a little bit. It's the Chicago Huntsmen versus Dallas Empire. That's how everything is going to start on Friday to begin the event. So here is my prediction. I'm not going to keep you waiting, but my prediction is I personally think Chicago is going to win that first matchup 3-1. And let me talk about this for a little bit. So I want to preface this by saying I don't think that the rest of the season is going to go this way. I just am breaking down for this event specifically. So if we're talking about 2 months from now, or if we're talking about 6 months from now, my prediction might be a little bit different. But for this one, I just think there are some things that play into this in which Chicago is going to win 3-1. Now, the other thing that I do want to point out is that I think that while I'm picking Chicago to win, this matchup is very dependent on whatever hardpoint maps are selected. So if you see Hackney Yard as the very first map they're playing, I would change my prediction and Dallas is going to win. If you go to those smaller maps, Hackney Yard or even Azir Cave, where the SMG matchups are real close and personal, I think Dallas has a clear advantage there. But if you're playing maps like, if you see that first map as Ramaza or St. Petrograd or even Gunrunner, I think Chicago has the edge there. So I do want to say that while I'm picking Chicago, there is a little caveat there based on how the map vetoes go down. Again, map 1, it's going to be a hardpoint map. We don't know what it is. We won't know until the vetoes come out, but I do pick Chicago to win that matchup, and mainly because of 2 things. 1, their experience, and then 2, I think that some jitters might come to the young guns, Shotzzy and Illy for Dallas. Now, that's why I said I wouldn't pick this for the rest of the season. So if we're talking 3 months from now, they would have time to settle in a little bit and get used to the events. But with the way that this goes, I just feel like it's so much to overcome. It's the brand new CDL. It's the first tournament. So I feel like this first map is probably going to go to Chicago. And again, it's dependent on whatever maps are picked. From there, the next map would be Search and Destroy, and I also think Chicago is going to win that one. And there's just a couple things that I think put them above or give them the edge. First of all is just the in-game leadership from Gunless. I know that sometimes he can come across as a little toxic, but for the majority of the tournament, having him on your team, he is one of the best in terms of picking out which strategy to use and how to counter certain strategies. So I think he gives them a big edge in that first map on Search and Destroy, and also they have the dominant AR. I know that Clayster's really good, and I know that Crim6, while he had a little bit of a down year last year, Crim6 is really good also, but there is no debating whatsoever that Formal is going to be the best AR in this matchup. There are some that are a close second, but with the leadership of Gunless and the AR ability of Formal, I really think Chicago takes map 2. As we move to map 3, which would be Domination, I think that since we've already played 2 maps, Dallas is going to have time to get those jitters out. Luckily, these aren't just a 1-game matchup and that's it. They are a series of 5 maps. So I think that first hardpoint, that first S&D would provide a good amount of time for Shotzzy and Illy and the rest of those young guns to get those jitters out of the way. I do think that third Domination matchup is probably going to go to Dallas. So at that point in time, it would be 2-1. And again, it's all map dependent. So I have Chicago winning that third hardpoint. If it's a good map that favors Chicago, I just don't see them dropping that. If they're up 2-1, I would see them close it out. And even if they don't close it out, I think that that fifth map, that Search and Destroy, they would definitely have an edge. So I'm picking 3-1. Again, We'll see what the maps are. If Hackney Yard is in there at all, Chicago is not going to win. So Hackney Yard is kind of like the key there, depending on which way that map goes. But map 5, I think even if it goes to a map 5, Chicago is going to win that. So my prediction is 3-1 in terms of Chicago. If you were to ask me again in 4 months, my prediction might be a little bit different. But for right now, I think that first matchup is going to be 3-1 Chicago. And if they are able to take a hard point, I think it'll be 3-2 Chicago. I just don't see them losing the search and destroys in this first matchup. As we move along here, the next match on that Friday is Seattle against Florida. This is the one that I struggle with the most. And you might want to say, well, how could you struggle with predicting this more than you would struggle with predicting Chicago and Dallas? And it's just my gut tells me to pick 3-1 in favor of Florida. Now, in terms of my prediction video, if you go back a couple days ago, I did a prediction video, and really Seattle and Florida are kind of right there in that middle tier together. So if we're just talking about my gut here, my gut, this is not my prediction, this is just what my gut's telling me. My gut is telling me that the SMG play from Florida has been so dominant over the last month or so. Every time that they scrimmage Chicago, those maps are going right down to the wire. They take some, they lose some. It's really just been a big tug of war battle. But those SMG play is why my gut has me leaning towards Florida. But with this one, I'm going to stick with my head, and I'm going to pick Seattle to win this. I'm going to say that they're going to win 3-2. And if we break it down map by map, I think that both the hard points are going to go to Florida. I don't know why, just their SMG play has been so good. I've seen so many 40 bombs from like Frosty and Skies that I just think that they're going to have the edge here in terms of the hard points. On the flip side of that, I think that both of the search and destroy matchups are going to go to the more experienced, the veteran-laden team, Seattle, which brings us down to that domination match. Now, I do just want to preface this by saying that I could see either team win that domination. I could definitely make a case, and a lot has to deal with the map, right? If it's a smaller map where the SMGs from Florida can really take over, then perhaps it would go Florida's way. So if it's a Hackney Yard, if it's a Gun Runner, or even a Zier Cave where those interactions are real up close and personal, I could see that going Florida's way. But if it's domination on a map like St. Petrograd, I would have to give that to Seattle, just from the AR play from Octane and the veteran leadership that exists there. So my matchup right now is that both hard points are going to go to Florida. Both of the S&Ds are going to go to Seattle. And again, small map versus big map. If it's a big map, I think it's going to go towards Seattle, and that's going to be my prediction. So I think it's going to be 3-2 for Seattle. Last but not least, the final matchup on this opening day, you have the home team, Minnesota ROKKR, against LA Guerrillas. And this one, I think this is going to be probably the most lopsided, the biggest mismatch of the weekend. I think Minnesota is going to win this 3-0, and I think there's going to be some blowouts. So there's been a little bit of discussion over the last week or so in terms of where to place Minnesota, and I agree with that. I think personally that Minnesota might even be a top 3 team. They've been competing at the highest level that we've seen over the past couple weeks. Now, of course, there's Atlanta, and that throws a wrench into things. So maybe Minnesota's obviously not that high, but I think after that, they can compete with anybody. So with LA, we've seen them compete against Chicago within the last week or so, and those scrims didn't go very well for LA. I just feel like in the hard point to search here, that's probably going to be like a 250 to 120 victory. I really feel that way. As it rotates to the search and destroy, this is the only map where I could make a case that LA would overcome and win a map. I don't think they have any chance whatsoever of winning a respawn. So my guess would be a hot 3-0. I think they're going to win hardpoint. I think they're going to win search. I think they're going to blow them out in domination. But if LA does somehow manage to pull off 6 rounds in that second map, in that search and destroy, then I could see it going to 3-1. But I don't think that there's any way that Minnesota loses any of those respawn game types. I just don't see it in the cards. And those are my predictions. So please, by all means, down in the comments below, let me know what you feel. I know that a couple people have been disagreeing with me recently with some of my predictions, and that's perfectly fine. I'm totally okay with it. It's just how I feel inside and what my gut says. Yours could tell you something totally different, and that's okay too. That's why I love doing stuff like this, because I love the conversation. I love commenting back and forth with you guys. So My guess would be that most people will probably disagree with me on that Chicago versus Dallas matchup, and that's fine. We'll see what happens. The map could start, and Shotzi could come out and drop 45 in that first map and just blow away the league. Who knows? We'll see what happens, but it's just kind of how I'm feeling at this point in time. So if you're new around here and you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We are 2 days away from the Minnesota LAN. I can't believe it's here. I've been waiting for this for so long. So I will be your headquarters for every match that weekend. I'm going to take maps, I'm going to upload them, I'm going to analyze them, and you'll get to see what I think about those matches. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to leave a like rating before you head on your way. And with that, guys, thank you so much. I'll catch you in the next one. We'll see you.